Mafia The Old Country is a very unique game. It is the definition of a hit or a complete and utter miss, as its genre registers as either extremely enjoyable or abysmally boring to people, depending on their preferences. Having said that, 2K were not being coy or secretive in any way about what this game is or isn't. They were completely transparent from the start that this is not a traditional open-world game and that the story is a short, linear one with no real choices akin to those of an RPG. And that is exactly what they delivered. To be honest, the combat system is pretty typical of the Mafia Definitive Editions though, not the original two games. I didn't mind it per se, though it did feel repetitive and kind of boring at times, I'm not going to lie. If you increase the difficulty level, however, it does get a bit more interesting. Having said that, the overall pattern the combat system follows is always the same. So basically, a mission goes from stealth to full-on fighting and then always ends in a knife fight. Thus, the missions tend to feel the same, even if they're actually different in essence and story. With all missions being kind of the same, there does come a point when you just don't even want to entertain the idea of stealth anymore and just arm yourself to the teeth and just go all in order to get the mission done and progress with the story faster. Which is also why I did not like it when certain missions force you into stealth, and you cannot just storm the area and get done with everything as soon as possible. Though I do have to say that forced stealth has never been my thing in general, and 9 out of 10 times, if this is optional, I'll just choose to barge in and finish everything quickly. So stealth always feels like a chore to me, but for those who enjoy such games, I'm fairly certain they will enjoy this part of the game as well. Though there were certain moments for me when I was genuinely laughing, because one NPC could be standing right there just watching you carry another NPC and putting them into a box, but if you were to move even an inch from behind cover, they can somehow sense you're there and are alerted to your presence immediately. But overall, it does feel like they have improved this aspect of the game, especially when you compare it to the stealth system and how it worked in previous games. The open world aspect of the game is, well, not that open at all, to be honest, but they were transparent about that from the get-go at least, so I knew what I was getting into and did not feel cheated or led on in any way. I feel like people who were let down by how limited this open world aspect of the game is went into this expecting Red Dead Redemption 2 levels of open world and activities in said world, and that is where the problem is. People have this tendency to compare every game that comes after a massively successful one to it forever after. Don't get me wrong, it is perfectly natural to think, well, X managed to be massively successful and prove you can do this type of thing in a great way, so why didn't you do that? But we have to understand that this is not a Western action-adventure open world. This is a Mafia game and should retain its identity, otherwise all games will just become the same thing, or a variation of Red Dead Redemption 2, or GTA, or Baldur's Gate 3, and so on. Mafia 3, for example, tried to go the let's copy GTA route, and Mafia fans hated it. So 2K went back to their roots, and while Mafia fans like the game, I can see how GTA fans probably find this a bit boring and restrictive. So for what it is, and for what it promised to be, Mafia delivers on its pseudo-open world feel. And for those that don't even want to drive or ride from mission to mission, they have added the Definitive Edition option to skip the ride to and from the destination, though I never used it because I really enjoyed the talking during the drives, and it did give some extra information about the story and the characters, so I never really skipped it. But for those that are in it just for the story, with nothing else, just want to go from mission to mission, the option is there. The world, as it is incredibly beautiful and captures the atmosphere of the time period perfectly. What is more, it does look and feel like a Mediterranean landscape, so I will concede that having some activities in this beautiful world would have been great. Though it does not feel game-breaking at all, for me at least, because, like I said before, they were transparent about it from the start. And I was in it for the story, to be honest, and that is something the game does very well in an unexpected way. The story is the strong suit of the game. This is what was most advertised about it, and with good reason. There are times when the story will feel kind of predictable, and dare I say cliché as well though. The narrative or story arcs of the story are also pretty typical, and the story literally checks every typical narrative arc of the list. It is a great story, akin to that of a mafia movie. It explores loyalty, betrayal, the enticing temptation that organized crime presents and the consequences thereof, power, deceit, love, sacrifice, and so many more of the typical mafia movie tropes. I know this may sound annoying to some, and I will be the first to admit that I too kind of hate it when I can predict what will happen next in a movie, in a series, in a game, in a book, what have you. But despite that fact, I did find myself actually enjoying the story nonetheless. Without spoilers, the story mainly revolves around Enzo's rising through the mafia ranks and his secret love for Isabella, the Don's daughter. This also sounds very cliché, I know, and that was my initial reaction to all of it as well at first. However, in a world where most writers have been constantly trying to reinvent the wheel while also sanitizing their characters, their dialogue, their story, etc., going back to the basics felt like a breath of fresh air, to be honest. Not every game has to be the next big thing. Some games are meant to be enjoyed for what they are. Short, impactful stories that sometimes want to go back to what is comforting and traditional, if you will. Many people complained about the game being too small in size and too short in length, and with a story of about 12 hours, I can see why. However, they were, once again, very clear about this from the get-go. And for €50, I don't know why people were expecting anything else other than what was revealed and promised to us in the first place. Mafia The Old Country felt like watching a mafia movie with a bittersweet ending that does manage to be impactful, heavy, and make you think about the consequences of such shortcuts to riches and glory. If you're looking for a linear, traditional, back to its roots kind of mafia-themed story, then you're going to enjoy the game. If, however, you want free reign over the story, open-world exploration, lots of side quests and activities akin to those of Red Dead Redemption 2 or GTA and so on, then you will be sorely disappointed by the game. But for me, the game manages to deliver on all its promises, and while some parts felt extremely cliché, I still found myself enjoying the game very much.